The fight against Boko Haram was one of a number of conflicts that formed topics on the front burner as the African Union Summit opened in Ethiopia. Chairman Musa Faki Mohammed says economic development depends on finding lasting peace. As the youth, issues that relate to, that concern the youths are unemployment and others. Well, to help us discuss this in the studio is Alesta Wilcox, public affairs analyst. Thank you very much indeed for coming.
Thank you so very much.
All right. Well, as the chairman of the African Union Summit put it, Musa Faki, the only way that we can find economic El Dorado is when we have peace on the continent. You agree with him, don't you?
Certainly, that's overflogging the issues. I agree with him completely, but the issue is what are the operators, the actors, those are the scene of the African continent in terms of governance. What are they doing about it? Year in, year out, you have the African Union hold their conference in Ethiopia, their summit in Ethiopia, and the issue of peace, security, wars, unemployment, and economic growth top the agenda. But after the clicking of the glasses and the glamour of the TV shows, what happens thereafter? Becomes everybody's guest. So it's not new, and he's not saying anything that is contrary to what everybody in Africa or in the world over wants to hear.
Speaking of which, let's now look at the stabilizing role that the African Union is playing or should play. Yeah. You know, beyond the jaw-jawing, are they walking the talk from the multinational joint task force to AMISOM to the one in the Central African Republic? How have you assessed their role in the last 1 year?
Well, I think the main problem is capacity. Yes, Africa still have to depend on the Western world to get some of these issues worked out. But the truth of the matter is they are not really walking the talk. Because if Africa is walking the talk, maybe we will not be where we are today. Now, wars and conflicts are not strange to human endeavor. So long as there is human endeavor, it has been there right from creation. We all know it. Even before civilization, tribal wars and everything. Europe was in war, First World War, Second. But you know, at some point, some people came to their senses that, look, the best way to go about living is to negotiate and to talk. You know the conflict that almost reared its head between Ukraine and Russia, and how the powers that be bring a lot of pressure on Moscow to back down. If not, I mean, Moscow, it's like being a walkover. So other parts of the world have developed their own mechanism, their own capacity. Through all those agencies, you have NATO, you have other agencies, you have the EU and all whatnot, that will bring certain pressure to bear on parties to make them see reasons as not to extend conflict. But in Africa, that is not the case. Now we've had UNISOM, you have all the bodies. To what extent have they been able to rein in? Those are like peacekeeping operations, but have they been able to rein in the actors, the principal actors that are responsible for these conflicts over time? The answer is no. And successive governments in every of these African Union states are not creating environment that will also remove conflict, that will reduce conflict. You hear leaders, when leaders see themselves as God, when leaders see themselves as demigods and they go about, they rule the people as if they are God. So that creating stability in the minds of other persons as also wanting to. So the capacity is the problem in really walking the talk. And at all points, we have to depend on the Western world to assist us. And don't forget, who manufactures these weapons and these ammunition is the Western world. So so it's like blowing you with one hand and also fanning you with the other hand, because they also need to sell their weapons. They also need to have their own economic growth. So if there is no war, if there is totally no more war in the continent of Africa, the defense industry will suffer.
So now you talk about a very important ingredient to the development, which is capacity building on our own. How do you think that we can handle this? Because we keep depending on international forces to help us with some of the challenges that we have. How do we solve this problem of capacity?
Number one, sincerity of purpose. You see, there's nothing anybody cannot do, or people cannot do if they are sincere about it. I'll give you a typical example. Now, when Boko Haram was ravishing the entire Northeast, we had a Nigerian army, the same Nigerian army, not different Nigerian army, the same Nigerian army, commanded by the same Nigerians. We are not able to halt the advances or contain it. But when Buhari came on scene, he took the capacity. He was sincere. He did that sincere of purpose, and and deployment of resources rightly to the root of the conflict or the problem and take the fight through to that. So the same Nigerian army that over 4 years could not contain Boko Haram was expanding and expanding up to the point of taking territories. The same Nigerian army was not able to put Boko Haram on the back foot, and they are now the ones that are now running. Well, forget about the skirmishes of, but no, they cannot hold. So if there is sincerity of purpose in addressing any conflict areas, Darfur has stayed for too long, for goodness sake. Mali has stayed for too long. I'm talking of even West Africa. I mean, the ones we know. Southern Sudan has been there for too long. So if there is capacity and sincerity of purpose in the AU itself, because I tell you something, my brother, you can cook for the whole nation, for the whole community, and they will eat it. But when the whole community cooks for you, you'll not be able to eat it. So if the whole of African Union bring their forces to bear, and it's not just to talk, it's to act. This issue of non-interference in member states, I don't think it's working. I mean, it's an issue that let me call it an issue that they use to protect their own self, because they know they're all guilty of that. If they open it all, that everyone can interfere. So it's a selfish issue. That's what I'm looking for. So right now, the issue of non-interference, which is contained in the African Union Charter, is no longer working. And I think it is time for there to be a modification of that charter, so that in conflict areas, the entire region, the entire continent can mobilize resources, can mobilize forces, and to deal with that issue, and to bring the culprits to bear. That will send a strong signal. So sincerity of purpose, and then lack of corruption. If there's no corruption within the system, I tell you, people will have better. That's
instructive, Alesta, and it brings Gambia to mind
exactly.
at this time. Thank you very much.
Gambia was a typical example that when the whole of West Africa brought their mind to bear on Gambia, the man was on his throne. And
thank you very much.
I think that's where African Union should go.
Alesta, very instructive, and that's the way we'll end this segment. We've been looking at the 28th session of the African Union Summit currently holding in Ethiopia.